The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what lay beyond. By the year 2347, those dreams had become reality. Humans had spread beyond Earth, building colonies on distant planets. They were not large colonies. They were not powerful, but they were home to millions of families who wanted nothing more than to build new lives among the stars. The galaxy, however, was not empty. The Galactic Concordat had existed for millions of years. It was an alliance of over 4,000 different alien species. Some looked like giant insects. Others resembled walking plants or living clouds of gas. They had built great civilizations, conquered the secrets of faster-than-light travel, and mapped every corner of the galaxy. To them, humanity was nothing, just another primitive species crawling out of their home planet. The Concordat had seen thousands of young races rise and fall. Humans were not special. They were not important. They were barely worth noticing. The Dominion noticed them anyway. They were a race of tall, reptilian creatures with scales the color of dried blood and eyes that glowed like hot coals. They had been part of the Concordat for 50,000 years, and they were always hungry for more territory. When their scouts discovered the small human colonies on the edge of known space, they saw an opportunity. These humans had no powerful weapons. They had no allies. They had no protection from the Concordat. They were perfect targets. The attack came without warning on a peaceful morning. 3 human colony worlds, New Helsinki, Cascade, and Port Harmony, woke up to skies filled with warships. The colonists tried to send distress signals. They tried to evacuate. They tried to fight back with their small defense forces. None of it mattered. They did not come to conquer. They came to destroy. Their ships rained fire from orbit, turning green forests into ash and blue oceans into steam. Buildings melted. Cities burned. 800 million human beings died in a single day. Men, women, and children. Farmers, teachers, and doctors. All of them gone in nuclear fire and plasma storms. When it was over, the broadcast a simple message to Earth: submit or die. The Galactic Concordat watched all of this happen. Their sensors recorded every death. Their diplomats discussed the situation over expensive meals, and they did absolutely nothing to stop it. Humanity was not a member of the Concordat. Humanity had no treaties, no alliances, no friends among the stars. According to galactic law, they had done nothing wrong. The strong took from the weak. That was simply how the universe worked. Ambassador was chosen to deliver the final message to Earth. She was a species that looked almost human but with silver skin and 4 arms. They were known for their diplomacy and their ability to make defeated species accept their fate with dignity. Traveled to Earth expecting to find a broken people. She had done this many times before with other young races. They always cried. They always begged. They always surrendered in the end. The meeting took place in Geneva, in a building that had once hosted peaceful discussions between nations. Now it hosted the end of human independence, or so believed. Commander Cole represented United Earth. He was a military man in his 50s, with gray at his temples and scars on his hands from years of service. He had lost a daughter on New Helsinki. He had watched the videos of the attack until he had memorized every horrible second. Stood before the assembled human leaders and spoke with practiced sympathy. "The Concordat offers you a choice," she said. "Accept rule peacefully, and your remaining population will be spared. You will serve the Dominion as a labor species. It is not a pleasant fate, but it is better than extinction." She paused, waiting for the tears, waiting for the surrender. Commander Cole sat perfectly still. His face showed no fear. His eyes showed no despair. When he spoke, his voice was calm and cold like winter ice. "How many ships do they have?" Blinked in surprise. This was not a normal question. "I do not see how that matters. The Dominion commands over 100,000 warships. You have perhaps 200 small vessels. The mathematics of your situation are clear." Cole nodded slowly. And how many species has the Concordat watched the destroy? That is not relevant to. How many? Hesitated. 17 over the past 12,000 years. 17 species. Cole repeated the number like he was memorizing it. 17 entire civilizations, billions upon billions of lives, and your Concordat watched each one die. The Concordat does not interfere in conflicts between. You watched our children burn. Cole's voice did not rise, but something in it made take a step backward. You recorded it, you discussed it over dinner, and you did nothing. He stood up slowly, and for a moment felt something she had not felt in centuries of diplomatic work. She felt afraid. Go back to your Concordat, Cole said. Go back to and deliver this message. You should have killed us all. Stared at him. I do not understand. Are you refusing surrender? We are not refusing anything. We are making a promise. Cole walked toward her until they stood face to face. You think you know what humanity is. You think we are weak because we are young. You think we will break because we are small. He smiled, and there was no warmth in it at all. They killed 800 million of our people. They thought that would make us afraid. They were wrong. They have made us angry. And Ambassador, you have no idea what humanity does when we are angry. Left Earth that day with a strange feeling in her chest. She told herself it was nothing. The humans were bluffing. They had no ships, no weapons, no hope. In a year, perhaps two, they would see reason and surrender. She filed her report with the Concordat. She marked humanity as a minor threat requiring no immediate attention. She recommended that they be allowed to proceed with their conquest at their leisure. It was the worst mistake anyone in the galaxy had ever made. Far from the watching eyes of the Concordat, something was changing on Earth. In factories and laboratories, in military bases and university halls, humanity was waking up, not to surrender, not to despair, to war. And the galaxy was not ready for what was coming. The galaxy waited for humanity to die. In the great halls of the Concordat, alien diplomats made bets on how long the humans would last. Some said 6 months, others said a year. The more generous ones gave humanity 2 years before they finished what they had started. They themselves were in no hurry. They had destroyed 3 human colonies and killed 800 million people. Surely the remaining humans understood their situation. Surely they were busy crying and praying and accepting their fate. The Dominion would return to finish the conquest when it was convenient. There was no rush to destroy such a weak and primitive species. This was their first mistake. Earth went silent. No more diplomatic messages, no more requests for mercy, no more attempts to join the Concordat or find allies. The humans simply stopped talking to the rest of the galaxy. The Concordat thought this was despair. They thought humanity had given up. They thought wrong. Behind closed doors, something incredible was happening. Every government on Earth had put aside their differences. Old enemies became allies overnight. Countries that had argued for centuries now worked together toward a single goal. Humanity had finally found something that united them completely: revenge. Commander Cole stood at the center of this transformation. He had been given complete authority over what they called the Remnant Project. The name was simple. It was all that would remain of humanity's enemies when they were done. We have 2 years, Cole told his assembled generals and scientists. Maybe 3 if we are lucky. They will return to finish us. By then, we need to be ready. A young scientist raised her hand. Sir, they have technology thousands of years ahead of ours. How can we possibly catch up? Cole smiled grimly. We don't need to catch up, we need to cheat. The Concordat had rules about weapons. Over millions of years, they had discovered technologies so dangerous that they banned them completely. Weapons that could tear holes in space. Bombs that could make stars explode. Devices that could destroy entire solar systems in seconds. These things were forbidden. No civilized species would ever build them. Humanity had never agreed to those rules. Earth's scientists worked day and night, year after year. They studied captured alien technology from the destroyed colonies. They experimented with theories that other species considered too dangerous to test. They built things that the Concordat had nightmares about. And they succeeded. In hidden factories deep underground, the first of the new weapons rolled off assembly lines. Humanity called them Hellfire torpedoes, missiles that could punch through any shield and burn through any armor. They built void cannons that tore holes in the fabric of space itself. They created ghost ships that could turn invisible to every sensor in the galaxy. But weapons were only half the battle. They also needed ships to carry them. The Concordat built their warships to be beautiful. Their vessels were works of art, graceful curves of crystal and light that could travel between stars like dancers moving across a stage. These ships were designed to impress and intimidate. Human ships were designed to kill. The remnant fleet was born in secret shipyards hidden throughout Earth's solar system. These were not beautiful ships. They were ugly, brutal things, massive blocks of armor covered with weapons. They had no windows because windows were weak points. They had no elegant curves because curves wasted space that could hold more guns. Each ship was built to take terrible damage and keep fighting. Each ship could operate with a skeleton crew if most of the sailors were killed. Each ship was a pure expression of humanity's rage given physical form. The construction crews worked 20-hour days. Engineers collapsed from exhaustion and were carried to beds, only to return to work hours later. Scientists tested weapons until their hands shook from stress. Soldiers trained in simulators until they could fight in their sleep. And the volunteers kept coming. Billions of people wanted to join the remnant fleet. Old soldiers came out of retirement. Young students left school. Factory workers, teachers, doctors, farmers, everyone wanted to fight. They had all lost someone in the attacks. They all had someone to avenge. Maria Santos was one of them. She was a 32-year-old engineer who had lost her entire family on Cascade. Her parents, her husband, her 2 young sons, all burned to ash by weapons. For months after the attack, she had wanted to die. Then Commander Cole's speech was broadcast across Earth. "You should have killed us all." Those words woke something inside Maria. Not hope. Hope was too gentle. What she felt was purpose. Cold, hard, unbreakable purpose. She walked into a recruitment center the next morning and never looked back. Now she stood on the deck of the battleship Vengeance, watching final preparations through a viewing screen. Around her, thousands of other ships waited in the darkness between planets. The remnant fleet had grown larger than anyone had predicted. When Cole asked for 200 ships, humanity built 2,000. When he asked for weapons, they built enough to fight a war that would last centuries. Commander Cole's voice came through every speaker on every ship. "In 2 hours, we launch our first attack. They think we are broken. They think we have accepted our death. They think we are weak." He paused, and Maria could hear the cold fury in his voice. "They think wrong. We are not weak. We are angry, and today we begin teaching the galaxy what happens when you make humanity angry." The fleet came alive around Maria. Engines powered up, weapons loaded, shields activated. 2 years of grief and rage and desperate work had led to this moment. "They killed our families," Cole continued. "They burned our worlds. They laughed while our children screamed. Today we stop crying. Today we start making them pay." Maria thought of her sons. She thought of their laughter, their smiles, the way they used to run to hug her when she came home from work. They had taken all of that from her. Now she would take everything from them. "Remember New Helsinki," Cole said. "Remember Cascade. Remember Port Harmony. And remember this, we didn't start this war, but we're damn sure going to finish it." The remnant fleet moved forward as one. 2,000 ships, 2 billion soldiers, one purpose. Revenge. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They had poked a sleeping giant. They had killed its children and laughed about it. Now that giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. They had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed that destroying humanity's homes would break their spirit. Instead, it had forged them into something new, something dangerous, something that would change the galaxy forever. The hornets were flying, and their stingers were sharp. The fortress of Iran had stood for 12,000 years. It was the pride of the Dominion, a massive space station built into an asteroid the size of a small moon. Its walls were made of metals that could survive the heat of a star. Its shields could stop any weapon known to the Concordat. Its guns could destroy entire fleets before they got close enough to fight back. For 12,000 years, no enemy had ever breached its walls. They considered it unbreakable. They were wrong. The attack came at dawn, station time. The first warning was a sensor reading that made no sense. One moment, space was empty. The next moment, 2,000 human ships appeared out of nowhere, their ghost technology finally dropping away to reveal the largest fleet they had ever seen. Commander Az, the station's leader, stared at his screen in disbelief. "That is impossible," he whispered. "The humans only had 200 ships." He was looking at 10 times that number. "All stations raise shields, power all weapons, send a distress signal to the..." The crew rushed to obey, but they were already too late. The human ships opened fire before the station's shields could fully activate. Hellfire torpedoes, weapons that should not exist, tore through the ancient armor like paper. Void cannons ripped holes in sections of the station that had survived for. Az watched in horror as his unbreakable fortress began to break. But the real terror was yet to come. Boarding pods launched from the human ships, small, fast vessels that slammed into the station's hull and burned their way inside. Human marines poured through the holes, and they learned something that would haunt their species forever. Humans were terrifying in close combat. The Concordat fought wars with rules. There were proper tactics. There were accepted strategies. There were things that civilized species simply did not do. Humans had never learned these rules, and they did not care to learn them now. The Marines fought like wild animals. They did not retreat when wounded. They did not surrender when surrounded. They kept fighting until they physically could not move anymore, and sometimes they kept fighting even then. One Marine, her legs destroyed by enemy fire, continued shooting from the ground until her weapon ran dry. Then she threw grenades until those were gone. Then she pulled out a knife. They had never seen anything like it. Their soldiers were brave, but they fought to win. The humans fought like they had already accepted death and simply wanted to take as many enemies with them as possible. 6 hours after the attack began, the fortress of Iran fell. 12,000 years of history ended in a single morning. The survivors were allowed to escape in life pods. Commander Cole wanted witnesses. He wanted the story of what happened here to spread. And spread it did. Video of the battle reached every corner of the galaxy within days. The Concordat watched in stunned silence as the primitive humans did the impossible. Species that had ignored humanity for years suddenly found themselves very interested in these strange creatures from Earth. Ambassador watched the footage in her office, her 4 hands trembling. She remembered standing before Commander Cole, telling him to surrender. She remembered his words, "You should have killed us all." Now she understood what he meant. She requested an emergency meeting with the Concordat High Council. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from thousands of species, beings of every shape and size imaginable. They had gathered to discuss what they called the human problem. "We must intervene," said, her voice urgent. "They started this war, yes, but if we do not stop the humans now, they will not stop at the Dominion." The High Chancellor was a being of pure energy, ancient beyond measure. His voice echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. "The humans are fighting a war against an aggressor. This is permitted under Concordat law. We have no reason to intervene." "You do not understand," stepped forward breaking protocol. "I have studied the footage. I have analyzed their tactics. The humans are not fighting to win. They are fighting to destroy. They want to wipe them from existence, every single one of them." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Such total war was rare in the galaxy. Most species fought for territory or resources. Genocide was considered barbaric, something that only the most primitive races attempted. "Surely you exaggerate," said another council member, a creature that resembled a walking tree. "Even if the humans want revenge, they cannot possibly defeat the entire Dominion. They have 100,000 ships. The humans have 2,000 at most." 2,000 that we know of, corrected. "They built this fleet in secret. They developed weapons we thought impossible. They appeared out of nowhere and destroyed our most advanced fortress in 6 hours." She looked around the chamber, making sure every representative heard her next words. "What else have they built that we do not know about?" Silence fell over the council. Far across the galaxy, the remnant fleet was not resting. Commander Cole had learned the most important lesson of war: never give your enemy time to recover. The second attack hit a shipyard, then a fuel depot, then 3 more fortress stations. Each battle followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, impossible weapons, and soldiers who fought like demons. The commanders tried every tactic they knew, but nothing worked. The humans adapted too quickly. If a strategy worked once, it never worked again. Human officers studied each battle and changed their tactics within hours. They learned their enemy's patterns and used them against him. They turned their own techniques into traps. Maria Santos, the engineer who had lost her family, had become a weapons officer on the Vengeance. She sat at her console, watching another station burn on her screen. She felt nothing. Not joy, not satisfaction, not relief. Just cold, empty determination. "Targets destroyed," she reported, moving to next objective. Beside her, a young sailor looked at the burning station with wide eyes. "How many do you think were on that station?" Maria did not look away from her screen. Not enough. The war continued. Week after week, month after month, the remnant fleet cut through space like a knife through flesh. They took no territory. They built no bases. They simply destroyed everything in their path and moved on. They began to panic. Their mighty dominion, which had terrorized younger species for 50,000 years, was being dismantled piece by piece. They sent diplomats to Earth, begging for peace talks. The diplomats never returned. They asked the Concordat for help. The Concordat refused. This was not their war. They gathered their fleet for one massive battle that would crush the humans once and for all. They assembled 80,000 ships, the largest force the Dominion had ever created. Commander Cole smiled when he heard the news. This was exactly what he had been waiting for: a single, decisive battle, a chance to break the completely. The trap was set. The bait was taken. Now came the reckoning. Prime was beautiful from space. The glowed like a red jewel against the darkness, its crimson oceans and orange forests visible even from orbit. 12 billion lived on that world. Their greatest cities covered entire continents. Their history stretched back 100,000 years. Today, that history would end. The remnant fleet arrived at dawn. Not the 2,000 ships that had begun the war. Now there were 5,000, built in secret shipyards that the Concordat never knew existed. Humanity had been busy during the long months of fighting. While they desperately defended their borders, human factories worked day and night, producing more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. Commander Cole stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth's Memory. Through the viewing screen, he could see the defense fleet, 80,000 ships forming a wall of metal and energy between humanity and there. 80,000 against 5,000. The numbers should have been impossible to overcome. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the fleet is moving into attack formation." Cole nodded slowly. Let them come. The battle that followed would be studied for thousands of years. Military academies across the galaxy would analyze every move, every tactic, every decision. But they would never fully understand what happened that day, because what happened was not just about tactics. It was about rage. The human ships charged directly into the formation, a move that any sensible commander would call suicide. They opened fire with everything they had, filling space with plasma beams and missile swarms and weapons that could crack planets. Human ships died, hundreds of them torn apart in the first minutes of battle, thousands of sailors killed in an instant. The fleet did not slow down. The surviving ships crashed into the lines like a hammer hitting glass. At close range, the human weapons were even more devastating. Hellfire torpedoes ripped through battleships. Void cannons created whirlpools of destruction that swallowed entire squadrons. And through it all, the humans kept pushing forward, trading their lives for enemy ships at a rate that should have been unsustainable. Maria Santos gripped her console as the Vengeance took another hit. The ship shuddered, alarms screaming, but she kept firing. Beside her, crew members worked frantically to keep the weapons online. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Engineering reports main reactor damage. We've lost 30% of our weapons. Captain Torres, a woman with gray hair and fierce eyes, stood at the center of the chaos. Keep firing, don't stop for anything. A beam of plasma cut through the bridge, killing 3 officers instantly. Maria felt blood splatter across her face, not her own. She wiped it away and kept firing. This was what humans did. This was what they had never understood. Humanity did not fight to survive. They fought to win, even if winning meant dying. On the Earth's memory, Commander Cole watched the battle with cold satisfaction. His fleet was being torn apart, but so was the enemy's. And unlike humanity had planned for this. They had known the cost from the beginning, and they had accepted it. New Helsinki, Cole said quietly. Sir, his aide asked. That was my daughter's colony. She was 8 years old. Cole's voice was steady, almost peaceful. She loved drawing pictures of space. She wanted to be an astronaut when she grew up. They burned her alive along with 300 million other people. The aide said nothing. Today we collect the debt. The battle raged for 8 hours. 8 hours of constant fighting, constant death, constant destruction. Slowly, impossibly, the human fleet pushed through. The lost ship after ship, their formations crumbling under the relentless assault. By the end, only 15,000 ships remained. The human fleet had been reduced to 800 vessels. But those 800 ships now hung in orbit over Prime, their weapons aimed at the world below. Emperor Os, ruler of the Dominion, appeared on every screen. He was old for his species. His scales faded to pale gray, his eyes dim with age and fear. Humans, he said, his voice shaking. We surrender. We offer you everything, our remaining ships, our technology, our territory. Name your price and we will pay it. Please, I beg you, show mercy. Commander Cole's response was broadcast across every frequency in the galaxy. Every species, every world, every ship heard his words. You killed our children, you burned our worlds, you laughed while our people screamed. His voice was calm, almost gentle. There is no price you can pay. There is no mercy you can buy. You asked the galaxy a question when you attacked us. What happens when you try to destroy humanity? He leaned forward, and his eyes were cold as the void between stars. Today, you learn the answer. The bombardment lasted 3 days. When it was over, Prime was a dead world. Its red oceans had boiled away. Its orange forests had turned to ash. Its great cities were nothing but craters. 12 billion died. An entire species reduced to a handful of survivors scattered across the galaxy. The dominion that had terrorized the stars for 50,000 years was gone. But Commander Cole was not finished. The remnants of the remnant fleet, battered, bloodied, but unbroken, turned toward Concordat space. They did not attack. They did not need to. They simply appeared. Around every major Concordat station, around every council world, around every important location in galactic civilization, human ships, not 800, thousands, tens of thousands, an armada that dwarfed anything the Concordat had ever imagined. You watched, Cole broadcast to the stunned council. You could have stopped this. They killed 800 million of our people and you did nothing. You declared it legal. You said we did not matter. On her station, Ambassador felt her heart stop. She had been right. She had warned them and they had not listened. Now it was too late. We built this fleet in 3 years, Cole continued. 3 years while your Concordat looked the other way. Imagine what we could build in 10. Imagine what we could build in 100. He paused, letting the silence stretch across the galaxy. Humanity asks for one thing only, to be left alone. We want to live in peace. We want to raise our children. We want to explore the stars without fear. Grant us this and we will be the best friends you ever had. His voice hardened. Deny us this, and what we did to the will seem like a gentle warning. There will not be enough of you left to remember what you did wrong. The message ended. The human ships remained where they were, watching, waiting, promising. The Galactic Concordat had received humanity's message loud and clear. And they would never forget it. 50 years had passed since the fall of the Dominion. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The Galactic Concordat still existed, but it operated under new rules now, rules that humanity had written in fire and blood. No species could attack another without facing consequences. No genocide would go unanswered. No young civilization would be left to die while the great powers watched and did nothing. These were called the Cole Accords, named after the human commander who had forced the galaxy to accept them. Some species complained that the rules were too strict. Some said humans had no right to tell older civilizations how to behave. But no one dared to break the accords because everyone knew what would happen if they did. Humanity had become the galaxy's enforcer, not through cruelty but through strength. They did not rule the Concordat. They did not want to. They simply made sure that what happened to them would never happen to anyone else. New Harmony was one of the first colonies humans rebuilt after the war. It sat on a green world with 2 moons and purple sunsets, far from the dead husk of Prime. Children played in its parks. Families gathered in its restaurants. Life went on, as life always does, even after tragedy. Ambassador walked through one of these parks on a warm afternoon. She was old now, older than most of her species ever lived. Her silver skin had faded to pale gray, and she needed a cane to walk. But her mind was still sharp, and her memories were still clear. She had spent 50 years trying to understand humanity. She had written books about them, given lectures about them, spent decades studying their history and their psychology. And still, they surprised her. She found the man she was looking for sitting on a bench overlooking a small lake. Children ran past, laughing and chasing each other across the grass. A mother called out to her son to be careful. A father lifted his daughter onto his shoulders so she could see the water better. Cole watched them with eyes that had seen too much death. His hair was completely white now, his face lined with age and old pain. He was 93 years old, and every one of those years showed. Sat down beside him without asking permission. They had met many times over the decades. These 2 old enemies turned something like friends. "Beautiful day," she said. "It is," Cole agreed. They sat in silence for a while, watching the children play. A young boy fell down and scraped his knee. He started to cry, and his mother rushed over to comfort him. She kissed the small wound and promised him it would be okay. "I have a question," said finally, "one I have wanted to ask you for 50 years. Cole turned to look at her. "Ask. Was it worth it, everything you destroyed, everything you became. The old commander was quiet for a long moment. His eyes drifted back to the children, to the families, to the peaceful world around them. "We did not want to become this," he said slowly. "We just wanted to live, to raise families like the ones you see here, to explore the stars in peace. We were so young, Ambassador, so naive. We thought the universe would be welcoming." "And instead you found us," said quietly. "And instead we found you," Cole nodded. "A galaxy full of species that had been fighting each other for millions of years. A concordat that watched the strong destroy the weak and called it natural. We were children walking into a battlefield, and we did not even know it." He fell silent again and waited. "That taught us the truth," Cole continued. "The universe does not care about what is fair. It does not care about justice or mercy or right and wrong. It only respects one thing: strength. If you are weak, you die. If you are strong, you live. So you became strong. So we became strong. Stronger than we ever wanted to be. Strong enough that no one would ever make us choose between extinction and survival again." Thought about our own species, they had learned that lesson too long ago. But they had chosen a different path: diplomacy, negotiation, careful alliance. It had kept them alive for 100,000 years. "The Council fears you now," she said. "Every species does." Cole smiled, but there was no happiness in it. "Good. Fear keeps people honest. Fear makes them think twice before burning another colony full of children. Fear saves lives. Fear also creates enemies. There are species in the Concordat who will never forgive what you did to the—" "I know," Cole shrugged. "Let them hate us. As long as they fear us enough to leave us alone, I can live with their hatred." A little girl ran past them, chasing a ball that had gotten away from her. She was maybe 6 years old, with dark hair and bright eyes. She reminded of the pictures she had seen of Cole's daughter, the one who died on New Helsinki. Cole watched the girl with a complicated expression. Pain and hope and grief and joy all mixed together. "We never wanted to be conquerors," he said quietly. "We just wanted to be left alone, to live our lives without fear, to raise our children in peace." He turned to face directly. "Your galaxy would not give us peace, so we took it. We built ships and weapons and armies, and we made ourselves too dangerous to attack. And when someone did attack us anyway, we destroyed them so completely that no one else would ever dare try again." Nodded slowly. She had heard this speech before in different words. It was the core of human philosophy now: peace through strength, safety through fear. "And now," she asked, "now that you have your peace, now that no one dares threaten you, what does humanity want?" Cole watched the little girl catch her ball and run back to her parents. He watched the mother sweep her up in a hug, the father ruffle her hair. He watched a family living the life that his daughter never got to live. "The same thing we always wanted," he said. "To be happy, to be safe, to raise our children in a galaxy where they do not have to be afraid." He stood up slowly, his old bones protesting the movement. "We did not start this war, Ambassador. We did not ask for it. We did not want it. But when it came, we finished it. And we made sure the galaxy would never forget the lesson." "What lesson is that?" Cole looked out at the peaceful colony, at the children playing and the families gathering, and the life going on all around them. He thought about the dead worlds and the burning ships and the billions of lives lost on all sides. He thought about everything humanity had sacrificed to reach this moment. "Humanity will do anything to survive," he said quietly. "Anything at all. And anyone who threatens our children will learn that lesson the hard way, just like the did." He walked away without saying goodbye, leaving alone on the bench. She sat there for a long time, watching the humans live their peaceful lives in their peaceful colony. Finally, she understood. Humanity had not won the war because they were stronger or smarter or more advanced. They had won because they were willing to pay any price, make any sacrifice, become anything they needed to become. They had looked into the darkness of the universe and become something darker. And the galaxy would never be the same.